Good morning. The old man here, January 9th, 2025. I've been away for a bit. Just let you know what's been going on this end. Pretty much been thinking about all the politics across the world, all the moving parts, trying to take in as much information as I can. Kind of difficult at this moment, or it has been anyways. I've kind of got a direction now, but it's been difficult to figure out what direction to go in. I was kind of waiting on the inauguration of Donald Trump to see what direction everything goes in. In the meantime, I've been pretty much just kind of laying back and just putting cash aside to see how that was going to work out. In the meantime, watching all kinds of political and geopolitical across the world, watching to see what the stock market was going to do the first part of the year, what the dollar was going to do, what our currencies are doing, just kind of trying to sort it all out. One thing about owning a business, in post 2008, after the collapse, there was quite a bit of money still floating around, guys. We sold a lot of guns from, let's say, 2008, 2000, maybe 2012, things that first 4 years of the Kenyan, things were still pretty hot. Guys were feeling flush, regardless if they actually were or not, they were feeling flush. And instead of putting their money in the stock market, of which they'd lost plenty there in 2008, they were putting money into firearms, ammo, things like that instead. In fact, they were buying some really high-end shit. Amazing, actually. But then after 2011, 2012, things really started to fall off fast. I did not see that pivot coming. And I wasn't, let's say, a student of finance at that time that I am today. And it caught me off guard. I had way too many employees. I was taking guns in on trade at way too high prices. I did not see the market start to fall like it did. I was just used to the last 4 years of, things rocking and rolling. Even though the stock market had taken a pretty good shit, and so did the housing market in 2008. So kind of got caught off guard. Again, I had too many employees. Most of them were family, didn't want to lay them off. And thought it would come back around, and totally wrong. I rode that son of a gun out right to, it was just down to me and one other person at the time. He's my son-in-law, great kid, hardworking. Jeff, he knows who he is. Great kid, hardworking, unbelievable. He helped me get through some pretty tough times, that's for sure. And he stuck with me as long as he could. And I appreciated that. And eventually, for his family, he had to move on as well. And that's fine. I can totally see where he was coming from. In fact, I encouraged him to do what he had to do and to move on. And he did. But this time around, I've been, especially since July, well, just prior to July of 2023, I'd really started studying the markets. I needed to know what money was doing across the world, what geopolitics across the world was like. I could see where the Biden administration or whoever was running our government, it sure as fuck wasn't Biden, but had to see where they were taking this and trying to figure out where we're going by studying the geopolitics and money and of the world, actually. It's interesting to see because we have the dominant currency across the world. There's actually some lag time. So you can watch the other currencies fall, and the clear sign of other currencies falling, whether they project it or not, is to watch the price of gold go up. And that's just the price of gold in fiat terms, don't get me wrong. Gold always has a constant value. It always has, it always will. But you can use that guide of the dollar or the gold in any currency going up. In other words, it takes more of that currency to buy an ounce of gold. That will tell you, again, not the price of gold going up, but it's actually the mirror image of that fiat currency going down. So getting back to what I've been really thinking lately, I'm still waiting for another shoe to drop. I think what the globalists have in store for us, the feds, if you will, is, in other words, not the federal government, but the federal central bank. What they've got in store for us is a collapse of our economy to go along with everybody else's collapse. Just that the dollar is the strongest of all the currencies, and that's for now. I think that's going to change. I think all currencies, well, they're going to have to do a reset. That's all there is. As each individual currency collapses, they're going to have to do a reset. They probably won't get it right the first, second, third time, but eventually they'll have to come back to gold. So many people say they can't. Well, they're wrong. Gold, in order to come back and be the currency of the world, it'll need to be revalued. It's been artificially kept down to make these fiat currencies across the world look better than they really are. But they need to bring that down and they have been bringing it down, their currency versus gold value, the currency value coming down versus gold. They've been doing that on a controlled basis, at least as much as they can. But there will be a point where there's a point of no return. And that is, well, I think we're past the point of no return, but at some point, it's going to fall sharp. All currencies across the world will fall. And the reason that is psychology. I've always been a big fan of learning and knowing as much about psychology as it can. I think is owning a business. I'm in the people business. I'm not really in the gun business. I could turn around and sell tractors as long as I understand people and psychology and how things work and how people think. I could sell tractors just as well as I could sell firearms, although I know firearms far better than I know tractors, don't get me wrong. But I could still do a pretty decent job, and within 6 months, a year, I could know the tractor business just about as good as I know the gun business. Honestly, there's not as many variables, let's say, in the tractor business. If I was selling John Deere, I need to know everything there is to know about John Deere. If I was selling White, I'd need to know everything there is to know about White. It'd probably only take me about a year to figure that out, at the most. Probably not even that long. But the firearm business is much more complicated. You're dealing with firearms some were built over 100 years ago. Many have been altered, and that all affects the price. So that is something that has taken me, that I've fine-tuned and polished over the last 50 years. Like I said, I started doing this when I was a kid. So, it is, yeah, I believe it's an art. I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying. But anyway, back to getting away from all the politics and everything for a while, coming back to, so what do you do about it? there's so much of it that's not in our control, especially as individuals. You just got to kind of sit back and watch the playbook and see how it turns out. It's kind of like watching a football game, of which I'm not a big fan of sports, but like watching a football game. You know you want to win, but actually you have no control over it. So what do you do to prepare for what's coming next? In this case, it just goes back to basic. It goes back to prepping. And from my thought process, and I'll get into it a little bit more maybe in the next few videos, but from my process or thought process is I'm going back to the basics, looking at all my preps, make sure they're well-rounded. If I, I've said in the past, if you don't have any preps, you should be looking at, at least a month's supply of food. And if you got a month's supply of food and other preps, let's say, then you should be thinking about 6 months. If you got 6 months, you should be thinking about a year, and so on and so on and so on. I'm at the probably, again, I got to reevaluate more, but I'm figuring that I'm probably in the 3-year range. But if things go the way I think they're going to go, I'll be actually, my preps will have to go more than just 2 people. And I think it's going to be a lot more people in the family involved. We'll see how that goes. But at any rate, I'm going to shore up my preps even more than I have been. Going for the, from the 3 to the 5-year preps. If you want to know where to start, look at the pandemic era and the things that you couldn't get and how things exploded in price. And in a lot of cases, they've come back to something that's reasonable, more than pre-pandemic, but that's because of the inflation of the money supply. Therefore, they are more expensive today. But during the pandemic, when things are hard to get, prices are artificially pushed up beyond inflation because of the scarcity. It's kind of like gold. The more scarce it is, the more value it has. In this case, looking at food preps and taking it from my goal would be from the 3 to the 5-year plan, pushing it out. One thing I've discovered recently, went to the local elevator here in Freeland, Michigan, which is Freeland's just north of Saginaw, kind of in between, not exactly, but kind of in between Bay City and Midland. Stopped in at the local elevator and got talking to the gal and was looking at getting more red beans that I normally stack, if you will. And found out that they went from, like, let's say mid-30s for a 50-pound bag to low 50s. So I didn't even realize they went up that much. But back in the day, 2 or 3 years ago, prior to the pandemic, or just as the pandemic was getting started, I bought enough that I figured it would last me quite a while, and really didn't worry about what the price was doing. I got ahead of the game, and I figured I had enough. Now I'm going from that 3 to 5 years, so I got to see where I'm at. So again, I found out that those went to, that bean that I normally stack is gone to $53, $54 for 50 pounds, which is still a pretty good deal when you think about it. A pound of beans, when it's reconstituted, a pound of dry beans will make a full quart of pressure cooked beans. And honestly, I would say that would serve 4 people. 1 cup would serve 4 people in a setting. Again, you got to put it with something else like beans and rice. So I'm going to be looking at the rice aspect too. I need to shore that up as well as the bean. But while I was there, I got talking to her, and she was telling me that the 2023 navy bean is on sale at half price. So in other words, it was $32, $33, and now I can buy that 50 pounds of navy beans. That's 2023. In other words, been sitting around since 2023, which doesn't hurt a thing. It doesn't matter how old it is. In fact, I've got 2022 beans in the basement, all prepped and in Mylar bags and 5-gallon pails. So it doesn't matter how old they are. They're if I keep them high and dry, they're good for 25 years at least, if not a hell of a lot longer. But at any rate, them navy beans are $16 for 50 pounds, 16 and change. I think it's maybe 16.75. Let's call it something like that. For 50 pounds, and man, that is huge when I can get that kind of a discount. That's amazing. So the other day I picked up 5 bags or 5 50-pound bags of that. I've got some black barrels that were originally pickle barrels. They brined pickles in those barrels and then they sell them. I picked them barrels up a few years ago, actually. I picked up quite a few of them. Picked them up for like $15, $16 a barrel, something like that. It'll hold about 350 pounds of beans. So this weekend, I'm going to start filling up some of them barrels. In fact, this morning when I get off this recording, I'm going to bring them bags into the garage, and tomorrow morning I'm going to pick up, well, maybe even this morning on the way to work if time allows, I'm going to pick up another five bags. And if I can do that this morning, I'll pick up another 5 bags Friday morning or Saturday morning, something like that, and get them stashed away. And then in the near future, pick up the equivalent of rice. The rice I really don't like to put in the barrels, although I probably could. It probably wouldn't be an issue. But in the past, I've put them in Mylar bags and 5-gallon pails, of which tends to be quite a bit more expensive storage, actually. A pail and a lid's going to run you $5, $6, $7, something like that. And that's only 5 gallons, which is about 25 pounds-ish. Maybe a little bit more. And so for every bag of beans you buy, you're going to have to buy 2 pails, 2 Mylar bags. 2 5-gallon Mylar bags are probably going to cost you $3 or so a bag. So you're almost $10 in, or roughly $10 in per 25 pounds of rice. I meant to say not beans, but rice. So I don't know. I'm undecided on that. I might just go with using the barrels for the rice as well. The main thing about the barrels is it's a really tough plastic that it seals up good. You got to keep it in somewhere where it's high and dry, though. But it seals up good and it keeps the rodents out, and that's the main thing. You got to keep rodents out. You can't just stack the shit in the garage and expect it not to have any issues. Rodents will find it eventually, and turn your stockpile into a mouse-ridden pile of shit, basically. So that's not going to work there. So you got to prep that and put it in a way that they can't get to it. And moisture is not your friend either, so you got to make sure it's high and dry. So those are some of the things I'm working on. Like I said, I'm working hard on the beans this weekend, get them put away. Next week, probably hit Costco. They've always had a pretty good price on 25 pounds of rice, 25-pound bags of rice, and I'll kind of give you an idea of what rice is going for. Once I pick that up, what 25-pound bags of rice are going for around here, just to keep you posted. Another thing in the future, probably over the next couple weeks, going to have Christy. She doesn't know it yet, and if she's watching, I'm asking her now. Otherwise, I'll ask her later. I'm going to have Christy, if she would, run up north to the Amish store, pick me up a bunch of canning lids. I'm thinking about $200-300 worth of canning lids. Again, that's going to be important in the future. By spring, I want to have every jar I have filled with something. One other thing I'm going to be working on over the next couple weeks, I've got a couple of roosters that need to be butchered. I've got at least 4 or 5 drakes that need to be butchered. And I've got some hen chickens over at my sister-in-law's. I kind of was tapped out at the moment, ran out of room. She's got some over there taken care of for me, and I just took her like 10 bags of food, and she's taking care of the chickens for the moment. I'll bring them back home too, or at least some of them back home, make some room and get some of them back here. Got a lot of work done. I think I talked about it in a previous video, but got a lot of work done on the shed that was kind of starting to rot. Got some new boards up on it, some pine boards, 1-inch pine boards that I got from a sawmill. So pretty much for today, that's where I'm at, that's where I'm going. Kind of elaborate as I go. I'm not focusing too much on geopolitics and the videos. Although I'll touch on a little bit here and there, I don't want to make it a big political. There's plenty of that out there if you want to see it. I think a lot of folks need help in a direction to which to go. If you're just getting started, it is so overwhelming, you don't know where to go or where to start. And honestly, all you gotta do is start. Just start. Just start. The rest will come to you. I don't care if it's going out and buying instead of buying a can of beans, and when I say canned beans, I mean dry beans, not green beans, but of which you should be stacking them too. But get out there and get a bag of, a 5-pound bag of beans. That's a good place to start if you don't have anything. And then start thinking about how and where, depending on the room you have and the finances you have, how and where can you buy beans and rice at the best price, and now how am I going to store it? So many people say they don't have room. Well, they're not thinking outside the box. Most people got a closet or 2 or 3 or 4 that are full of junk. Get rid of that goddamn junk and start filling it up with food. That's the thing. We've got another run of inflation coming our way. It'll be hitting us pretty soon. Most other countries have already seen it. I think what we're going to see is a bit of what they call stagflation, where the price of things you need will go up, like food, housing, will continue to go up, even if it's just the interest rates on housing, if not the prices. I think the prices of housing's going to come down here in a bit. But in the meantime, interest rates are going to go up, rent's going to go up. So our overall cost of housing is going to continue to go up, and food's going to go up. But things like vehicles that you really don't need a new vehicle, I think you're going to see the prices of those come down quite a bit. So we'll see how that goes. Whether that takes the next year to come to fruition, I'm not sure. My understanding is that the used market is super soft now after the pandemic, and people paying way too much for used vehicles. Now they can't hardly even give them away. So, and the new market, you're going to see some hellacious discounts on these vehicles. I think you're going to see General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, and others start making some really inexpensive vehicles, get away from all this high rent shit that nobody can afford it. Like a Suburban at $90,000 or a pickup truck at $90,000. Nobody can afford that shit. I mean, people are going to have a hard time affording their house payment, let alone a payment on a $90,000 truck. There'll be a few that do it for a while, and a lot of those $80,000-$90,000 vehicles are going to wind up back at the back in the bank's parking lot. So, and like I said, I think you're going to see some pretty reasonable vehicles coming out. I've seen even Caterpillars getting into the truck business, and that's interesting. And pickup truck, medium-sized. Not, I don't think there were big pickups, but medium-sized pickup trucks coming out. And then one of the other, can't recall who, but one of the other equipment manufacturers are bringing out a medium-sized pickup truck as well. So that'll be interesting, and give General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler a run for their money. I think you'll see, again, less expensive vehicles. Maybe get back to the day where you could buy a vehicle that doesn't have all the accoutrements on it, the shit you don't need, and get down to basics. And that's where we're headed. So, all right. Have a great day. Like and subscribe if you will. Please leave a comment. Tell me what you think. I'll do my best to answer all the comments. We'll see what we can do. So, all right. Thanks a lot. Good night, or good day.